The year is 2025. It has been nearly 15 long years since the release of Halo Reach, widely considered to be the last great Halo game. Reach, Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo. Not just a game, but a cultural phenomenon in the mid-2000s. If you lived through it, you couldn't escape it. Posters, billboards, TV commercials, cardboard cutouts, the famous green Spartan was everywhere. Box office sales took a hit during Halo 3's record-breaking release week. Droves of teenagers stayed home on school days to play with their friends online. Times Square filled with crowds only rivaled by New Year's Eve during Halo 3's launch night. Forums boomed with conversation about everything Halo. Simply put, the first Halo, Halo Combat Evolved, came from nowhere and completely changed gaming forever. The awe-inspiring, planet-sized ring sparked wonder and imagination. Master Chief became the unequivocal mascot for Xbox. Some say that gaming finally hit the mainstream. But today, Halo is a shadow on the wall. People have moved on, servers are left empty, and those green boots gather dust. Yet, conversations about Halo today are mournful. Member berries and good times with friends. Spent casings of something once magical. Like losing a loved one, a Spartan-sized hole in their heart that can't be filled. Read any comment section, any forum post even mentioning the series, and you'll sense a collective longing. The people still love Halo, and they want more of it. So what happened? Can Halo recapture that magic? Does it have a future? Let's take a look at its DNA to see where it went wrong. Let's rewind. Back. Far back to ancient times. Before the rings. Before the Arbiter. Before Chief. To a time when it all began. The year is 1993, and a young fledgling studio by the name of Bungie is inspired by Wolfenstein 3D and decides to make their own game like it. This game would see you, the player, as a Special Forces Marine going through several labyrinthine floors of a pyramid to reach the bottom. There lies an ancient sleeping god, and if he wakes up before a set deadline, he will destroy the Earth. This game is, of course, Pathways into Darkness, and it was the first commercial game from Bungie that put them on the map. A man, a bomb, an ancient god, 5 days to kill him, you do the math. The player is slow and levels are simply linear mazes, but enemies are figments of the god's imagination made real. It's some pretty high concept stuff. Evidence of something truly unique was already brewing within the walls of Bungie Studios. Considering how Wolfenstein is just a guy going from blue room to blue room killing Nazis and collecting keys, Pathways into Darkness is a pretty crazy leap. Even more crazy would be their next game, the closest ancestor to Halo, Marathon. Just bear with me, I swear we'll get to Halo soon. Marathon sees the player as a security officer on the UESC Marathon, a colony spaceship as it's attacked by an alien faction called the Four. Marathon was actually the first game to ever have mouse look, as well as the first game to have dual-wielding weapons, making it a pioneer in the home computer market. Fortunate too, as the game has you blasting aliens throughout the ship at the command of the various AIs on board. It's a stark improvement over Pathways into Darkness in every aspect, especially with its now evolving story, as its narrative is expressed throughout computer terminals located throughout the trilogy. Here the player will read some of the best science fiction ever written for a game, as the rampant AI Durandal uses you to take over the invading Four ship and escape the Marathon to find a way to outlive the end of the universe. Marathon questions the meaning of free will, an individual's role in history, and the exploration of the self. Seriously, the trilogy is hardcore. People today still argue what the third installment, Marathon Infinity, is even about. Who are you in this universe? Is choice meaningful? What is consciousness? What even is time? The unassuming shooter asks big questions in between its sprawling levels and tight splattered corridors. But nothing would prepare the world for Bungie's next project. Halo Combat Evolved was the first big game for the Xbox. Few games still capture the sense of wonder this game has. There's a moment, right at the start of the second level. Yes, that one. The moment where you leave the life pod, and as you step out onto the grassy terrain, you look left. The horizon doesn't meet the sky like on Earth, but instead moves up and encircles it. It's beautiful, incredible. If this was your first time experiencing Halo, then seeing this for the first time is the game's hook. The level is deliberately built so it's impossible to not notice it. You witness the majesty of the ring, the vastness and scale and impossibility of such a sight, and from there on, Halo's got you. You know the story. Master Chief and Cortana battle the Covenant, discover the ring as a superweapon, unleash the Flood, and destroy the ring. Events of the plot aside, the spectacle of Halo is the eponymous ring. It's a giant planet-sized world floating in space that actually has the power to wipe out all life in the galaxy. Think about it. It's a wild idea. A fantastic idea. It's as fascinating as it is terrifying. But this is a game, and it's just science fiction. Aside from being a great premise, Halo also revolutionized how first-person shooters are made. It introduced twin-stick movement, one for aiming, one for walking. Halo was also the first game to limit the player to 2 weapons instead of an arsenal, and it was also the first to feature an automatic recharging shield mechanic on top of player health. Master Chief plays more aggressively and resourcefully than James Bond or Joanna Dark. Swap your empty gun out for one off the floor, and keep the pressure on the enemy with good uses of guns, grenades, and melee. This same golden triangle is the same for Halo 2 and beyond. Halo 2 expanded scope greatly, introducing online play.
Everyone has to have 10 kills. Once you hit 10 kills, start using plasma weapons if you can.
Dual wielding, and the removal of health entirely. Its split campaign also introduced new enemies, new weapons, and a brand new protagonist in the form of the Arbiter, a disgraced elite Covenant general. Chief and Arbiter play similarly, but it was truly a first for the medium. Fighting alongside fellow Covenant during Arbiter missions blew the minds of people in 2004. Anyway, the Covenant take the fight to Earth, as well as to a second Halo ring. We see the inner workings of the Covenant and their holy city, and meet the Gravemind, as well as kill some important Covenant leaders. It's a political struggle for power, with complete annihilation of the galaxy still looming over the heads of our protagonists. Arbiter's perspective deepened the overall narrative of Halo, as we can now more clearly see the Covenant's motivations and belief system. It's good stuff. The campaign remains the longest of the franchise, at around 8-ish hours playing on normal. But you can also replay it to find hidden secrets like skulls, little trinkets that activate gameplay modifiers. On top of that, Halo 2 introduced multiplayer over the internet through Xbox Live. Now you could play Team Slayer with anyone from across the world. For your $50, this was quite a package deal. A killer replayable campaign, and online multiplayer. And the deal would only sweeten with the release of Halo 3. This was the big one, the end of the trilogy. Halo 3 is the culmination of the efforts of Chief, Cortana, the UNSC, and the Arbiter as they fight both Flood and Covenant over control of an ancient artifact in Africa, and the Ark, which is a Halo megastructure far beyond the edges of the Milky Way. The Ark controls all other Halo rings, so if it's destroyed, the Halo threat is gone for good. Which is what happens, and the portal that led them there just barely closes on Chief and Cortana before they make it back home, stranding them out on the edge of space. Chief goes back to sleep in his cryotube, and with the Flood, the rings, and the Covenant all taken care of, Chief's story ends. Wow, what a trilogy, huh? Of course, Halo 3 is much more. Now, players can enjoy the story with up to 4-player co-op, 2 more than what CE and 2 provided. Multiplayer as a whole has been greatly expanded, with a ton of social and community features. Voice chat allows anyone with a mic to talk live in-game, for better or worse.
I'm a nerd, because I'm a nerd, and I'm so good
And file share becomes home to custom-made emblems, screenshots, videos, and more. Forge is a brand new creative mode where players can make their own maps and game modes to play in private lobbies with their friends using tools and assets already in the game. Bungie kept watch over their file share too, and posted notable works on Bungie.net, as well as the special recon armor for truly exceptional users. When you saw someone with a flaming helmet or the recon armor, you knew this guy earned it. Halo 3 didn't just improve multiplayer, it solidified Halo's identity as a community hub on Xbox. Players didn't just play together, they built communities, friendships, and lasting memories. Halo 3's popularity continued for several years, only receiving a couple of map packs and patches post-launch. There was also ODST, a smaller spin-off game made using the assets from 3 that released in 2009. Set in between Halos 2 and 3, it's a smaller scale, shorter campaign about the horrors of war from boots-on-the-ground troops. The ODST squad your perspective cycles through each reveal their individual trials of surviving in the besieged city of New Mombasa during its segmented missions. When you're not fighting off waves of Covenant in a high-rise tower, you're roaming the open, blood-stained streets as the rookie. It's intimate and lonely, but in a somber way. A testament to Bungie's ability to tell simpler stories. Despite being a smaller project for Bungie, even ODST provided innovation in the form of Firefight, a horde mode against waves of enemies. The last send-off before Bungie's final Halo project. Reach. The culmination of almost 10 years of Halo. Everything Bungie learned rolled into one package. Reach is about, well, the fall of Reach, a human colony completely annihilated by the Covenant right before the events of Combat Evolved. This isn't a Master Chief story. Instead, you play as Noble 6, the newest member of Noble Team, a squad of 6 elite Spartans whose role is to save as many people on Reach as they can. One by one, your teammates sacrifice themselves to sabotage critical Covenant assets, rescue civilians, and buy humanity precious time to escape the Holocaust. The campaign's final mission is burned into the minds of millions. Noble 6 is left behind, tasked with manning the guns so the Pillar of Autumn, carrying Cortana and Master Chief, can escape. As the ship leaves the planet's orbit, you know that nobody's coming back for you. Your last objective? Survive. An impossible task, as wave after wave of Covenant eventually overwhelms the lone Spartan. The game ends with a lingering shot of Six's helmet, overgrown with plants and wildlife. Without Noble Team, there would be no Halo, no Master Chief, no hope. Reach wasn't just an impactful story, it was the culmination of Halo at the time. Multiplayer expanded yet again and introduced loadouts with pre-made weapon sets and armor abilities, jetpacks, sprinting, holograms, that expanded gameplay possibilities. Forge was back and better than ever, as Forge World allowed creative types the free range to create incredible custom maps and game modes using the now myriad of assets and tools. Firefight returned as well, along with theater mode and custom games. And of course, the file share allowed the community to share all of it with each other and discover new things. Let's not forget the armor customization, which allowed players to spend multiplayer earned credits in an extensive armor store. Yes, Halo Reach had everything. It was not quite as iconic as 3, but it was polished and refined. This was Bungie's last project, and they did a damn good job. Now, it was time for them to pass the keys to Microsoft and say farewell to the series they built. For almost 20 years, Bungie told ambitious, high-concept stories that gave audiences food for thought. Ancient gods, rampant galaxy-faring AIs, a planet-sized superweapon, a life-devouring intergalactic parasite. Pathways, Marathon, and Halo gave people something more than just brief entertainment for a few short hours in their life. They gave them ideas to think about and ponder. More than that, they allowed their fans to share their experience together. Marathon's net play, Halo's co-op, multiplayer, file share, and community, these spaces provided a place for people to be part of the world long after they finished the story, a bridge between fiction and reality. That was what Halo was really about. Connection. People connected to one another, to be independent but united. The ultimate enemy of Halo, the Flood, stands as the antithesis of this idea. Why have connection if everything is assimilated into one hive mind? That's why they're the enemy. Even separated from Cortana, there is not one mission in Halo 3 where you're not joined by UNSC troops. People who say, "Hey, nice work," and "Nice shot." There is not one mission in Halo Reach where you are not fighting for the planet. Even in Marathon, there is not one level where you are completely on your own. Someone is always watching over you, either shooting the enemy or teleporting in weapons and ammo. That being said, let's take a close look at 343's Halo and why it feels different to so many people. My thesis? In 343's Halo, it's you against the world. In Bungie's Halo, it's you and the world against everyone else. After Reach, Microsoft got to work, forming 343 Studios and releasing Halo 4 only 2 short years after Reach. 343 Studios was now in charge, and they've decided to make some changes. Significant changes. Without hesitation, 343 reawakens Chief from his icy slumber and launches him and Cortana into their next mission. Unlike previous games, Halo 4's attention is split between two different ideas. On one hand, it attempts a more personal narrative between Chief and Cortana, but on the other, it insists on being a grand narrative with high stakes. Chief reawakens after almost 5 years in stasis, with a Covenant fleet knocking on their door and the UNSC Infinity right behind them. Cortana reveals that she's becoming rampant, the same idea that Durandal suffered from during the Marathon trilogy. The duo arrive on this new planet, Requiem, a Forerunner world, and inadvertently awaken the Didact, this game's central villain. Chief and Cortana try to counsel the threat of the Didact to the captain, but instead he tries to arrest them.
Lieutenant! Arrest that man! Captain! Arrest him!
Leaving Cortana and Chief on their own. Eventually, Cortana finds a way to stop the Didact before he kills everyone on Earth, but in the end, she sacrifices herself to buy time for Chief to defeat him. The story ends with Chief going home alone. It's admirable that 343 tried to do something different in the wake of Bungie, but unfortunately the campaign didn't quite resonate with people. Halo 4's campaign is shorter than any other campaign from the Bungie era, at around 4 hours played on normal, around half of Halo 2. The story it wants to tell is ambitious, but it doesn't give itself room to breathe. The Didact isn't very present for most of the game, and it's not immediately clear why he hates humanity so much, or how he has such immense power. He is just one guy, compared to the thousands of Covenant soldiers the UNSC deals with during the average Bungie campaign. Things are explained, but you'll have to search outside of the game to find these answers. Looking to the Cortana side of things, it's because of this split-focused narrative that Cortana's death feels unearned. Rampancy in Halo was never mentioned before, making this development feel pretty sudden. Marathon handled Durandal with expertise. His realization that the entirety of his existence was opening and closing airlocks aboard the Marathon made him rampant. His insane ramblings were balanced with focus and realistic goals. He philosophizes about the nature of man before teleporting you 10,000 feet below a planet's surface. It's endearing. Here though, Cortana's rampancy accelerates at a breakneck pace from start to end, with her being almost entirely unable to control herself by the finale. It would have been interesting to explore her psychology a little. A monologue while in the heat of combat would have been great, something unhinged, a recount of the time she and Chief had spent together, That'd be good too. It really feels like her body is dying rather than she's going insane, which would be fine, except she has no body. She's supposed to be going crazy, but all we see is a slight personality shift. Exploring Cortana's unraveling mind, her fears, regrets, maybe even some resentment toward Chief, would have lent the story some much needed emotional weight. Rampancy isn't just like a technical malfunction, it's the degeneration of an intellect, something Halo 4 hints at but never fully embraces. There's a lot of potential there, but it's ultimately unrealized.
Do you know what that condescending bitch said to me after our first game of chess?
Neither Didact nor Cortana are given enough time to develop, so no depth is reached. No depth, no impact. The campaign feels rushed and ultimately hollow. This Halo story is unfortunately largely forgettable. Multiplayer deviates largely from any previous iteration too. 343 looked at its closest competitor, Call of Duty, and decided to copy a lot of their homework. The arena shooter gameplay Halo was known for was simplified. Sprint allowed everyone to move very quickly around maps. Power weapons like rocket launchers are now call-ins instead of pickups. Tactical packages give you inherent bonuses like carrying an extra grenade or unlimited sprinting. The game was sped up significantly. Other modes like Firefight and Forge are either missing or gutted. File share? Never heard of it. Wait, actually that one is coming in a few months. Sorry. Multiplayer launched with much less content than the previous two Halo titles, and you could feel the change in density quickly. It played like Halo, but it didn't feel like Halo. Something was off. It didn't help that the game simply looks very different from any other Halo. Elites, grunts, jackals, all redesigned. Spartan armor, redesigned. Why do all the Promethean weapons look like the same gun in different shapes? It's like a cousin of Halo wearing the older brother's clothes. Halo 4's multiplayer wasn't inherently bad, it just lacked a lot of the game design inherent to everything that came before it. 343 shouldn't be faulted for experimenting, but Halo 4 doesn't genuinely innovate. It took out many features from the previous games and replaced things that worked with things that didn't. The best representation of this is its musical score. Halo has a very distinct musical style that is maintained throughout the years. As Martin O'Donnell says, he was looking for something
ancient, mysterious, and epic.
Gregorian chants and large string and horn sections accompany modern synths in creating memorable melodies and leitmotifs. It's a wonderful fusion. Halo 4 discards that legacy in favor of a somewhat blander Zimmer-esque soundtrack that you might hear in any sci-fi game. Boiled down, due to many design choices, this game doesn't feel like Halo. This trend continues in 343's second project, Halo 5 Guardians. 343 doubles down on the ideas they created for Halo 4. Guardians largely follows Spartan Jameson Locke and his team Osiris as they chase Master Chief and his team Blue, who has mysteriously gone rogue. Chief, meanwhile, is tracking clues leading him to Cortana, who survived Halo 4 by merging herself with Forerunner technology, and now aims to assimilate all AIs across the galaxy into one super AI. On their travels, Locke meets with the Arbiter, who's fighting a civil war on his home planet. In return for helping his people, the Arbiter helps out Locke and his team in finding Chief. When Locke finally catches up to Chief, the big moment is actually rather disappointing. Locke and him have a short duel before Chief manages to slip away. No consequences or big reveals. What was the point of that? Anyway, eventually Chief finds where Cortana is, a Forerunner planet called Genesis. He tries to reason with Cortana, but Cortana imprisons them, leaving Locke and Osiris to free them and escape the planet. The game ends there, on a cliffhanger. The plot has some tenable ideas, but it's ultimately unfocused. and its difficulty in conveying these ideas lead it to fail to tell an interesting or meaningful story. Halo 5's campaign really is more like a loose collection of ideas strung together than a coherent story. There's not even a resolution. Cortana isn't defeated or anything. The main characters simply leave her behind. What kind of outcome is that? Clearly, it wasn't really thought through. So let's look at the main idea. Once again, this game suffers from a split focus. On one side, Cortana becomes the main villain and commands the Promethean army from Halo 4, and on the other side, Master Chief goes rogue, and Locke and his team hunt him down. Cortana becoming a super AI could be an interesting premise, but the game makes no effort to explore the ideas evoked from the concept. What would a super intelligence spanning the galaxy look like? What if Cortana infected all artificial life, like the Flood infects all organic life? Cortana's rampancy could mirror the Flood. It could be interesting, but it isn't explored here. At least that idea has some merit. On the other hand, Master Chief being hunted down by the UNSC is an idea that has nothing to say. He's the man who brought about the end of the Halo threat, fought the Covenant for years and years with UNSC forces. Hell, he's the reason why Locke and his team can even interact with the Arbiter and his people during the game, and that is a point that's not even mentioned. Positing him as an enemy when he has done no wrong is just careless. You can make him evil, and even side him with Cortana, a decision that would be radical to say the least, but it is an option to tell an interesting story. It's also worth mentioning that most of Halo 5's campaign is spent chasing Chief as Locke and his team, but because of the circumstances of the narrative, you're actually unmotivated to play the game. You don't want to catch Chief. The goals of the player and the goals of Locke as a protagonist are misaligned. Overall, Halo 5 Guardians simply fails to tell a coherent story. It's a sequence of missions with a thin premise to connect them together. Ultimately, it betrays the characters of Master Chief and Cortana, without meaningfully expanding the universe or introducing ideas for the audience to think about after they're finished with it. It's a waste. Looking towards multiplayer, they've also doubled down here, which actually may have been a boon to them. Halo 5 is now almost strictly competitive. The game is very fast and is balanced around being able to get out of almost any situation with good decision making and reaction speed. Gone are their tactical packages and call-ins from Halo 4 and replaced by classic arena mechanics. It's classic Halo, but played much faster. This isn't actually a bad thing, and mechanics have been reworked to adjust to the game speed. For example, everyone can sprint all the time, but your shields can't recharge while you're doing it, requiring players to slow down when they're vulnerable. These changes found a new audience that genuinely enjoyed what 343 had created here, and for that, it's commendable. However, Halo 5 also introduced a new mode called Warzone, an even bigger big team battle with huge maps and lots of players. Something more akin to Battlefield without the destruction. Sounds great, except for one catch. Players can spawn power weapons like energy swords and rocket launchers from cards dropped from loot boxes, called requisition packs. The inclusion of this meant that players who purchased many requisition packs got more cards than players that didn't, and allowed them to use more power weapons more often, making Warzone somewhat pay to win. This was a very unpopular decision with the player base, and looked down upon especially for a full-priced game. With all this, the social aspect of Halo took a back seat. Forge is now very dynamic, with more tools and assets available than ever, allowing custom games to become rather advanced. However, FileShare is a shell of its former self. You can only discover files from friends, and they're only in the form of custom game modes and maps. No more screenshots or films to share. This is now a closed ecosystem. In some ways, multiplayer improved and became more streamlined and competitive. 343 chose a direction and stuck to it, but it also sacrificed the casual aspect and community that Bungie had built out in their games. That is no more evident than the lack of split-screen co-op. The only Halo game thus far without the feature. This is a big deal. Halo has been a game you can enjoy with friends or family in the same room, taking the Covenant or Flood on together. Dropping this feature means you can no longer share the story with friends or family simultaneously in the same room. It's tragic. So, knowing this, does Halo Infinite do anything different? Surprisingly, yes. Infinite is set on a real Halo ring, Zeta Halo, and follows the story of Chief against a new enemy faction, the Banished. The Banished and UNSC forces fight for control of the ring, while Chief learns to work with his new AI companion, only known as the Weapon. The gameplay is slowed down again, and a new equipment mechanic is introduced. 343 really tries with this title, but it's simply not enough. The story still lacks a grander narrative. It still lacks big ideas. It still lacks unity. The biggest factor in this is likely its open world. Great stories can be told through open world level design. Just see God of War or Horizon. But it requires the setting to be built in a way that serves the progression of the narrative. Infinite's narrative is all about the Master Chief being reactivated after 6 months of floating in space, while the UNSC fought a losing war against the Banished on the ring. It is now up to him to turn the tide and stop the Banished before they repair it and use it against humanity. Chief and the Weapon explore several locations in the depths of the ring, searching for answers of what happened in those 6 months he was gone. They learn of Cortana's fate, which happened off-screen, and how this ring houses something called the Endless. They face off against several Banished leaders, eventually taking out the head honcho, Escharum. There are more details with something called the Harbinger and the rogue Pelican pilot Echo 216, but the main focus is on Escharum and his role as the War Chieftain. The plot here is serviceable. It works. However, it's boring. Everything is available to the player from the start, so the game can't control where they'll go first, which consequently makes it so it can't control the narrative's pacing. The story needs to accommodate for this, but it overcorrects itself. Every story beat is played safe, to ensure the player follows the plot. Want to do all the Save Marine Squad side missions right away? No problem. But you can also completely ignore the open world and its activities if you want to. There is no obligation to interact with it whatsoever. What rewards it gives you for completing its paltry selection of extracurricular activities are not particularly useful during story missions. If you get a cool gun variant from assassinating a high-value target, it will just be replaced 10 minutes into the story mission as soon as its ammo is spent. So then, it's only useful in doing the other side activities. But why use guns at all when you can take a Razorback full of rocket marines into any point of interest and have them obliterate the enemy while you simply drive around? Or take a Wasp once it's unlocked to literally fly to any location and gun down the remaining HVTs and save the straggling marine squads from the comfort of your armed cockpit. These features just do not interact with each other, and it gives the player little reason to do anything outside of the story if they don't feel like it. It's Halo, but it's flattened, ironically imprisoned by the open world Chief and the survivors of Infinity inhabit. The same goes for multiplayer. Here, it is much more akin to the Bungie games. However, where it theoretically does look and play like Halo, the shared experience is again missing. All the regular modes are here, but the community is severed. FileShare and Forge delayed by over a year after launch. The link between a grand narrative and a way to continue to live the world remains unlinked. Multiplayer also suffers from aggressive monetization, which is still looked down upon by the gaming community. $8 is far too much for a pack of victory poses and a few decals. The indefinite battle passes are much better than competitors in this space, but it's still too much. This is Microsoft after all, Monetization could simply be linked to Xbox Game Pass and give people another reason to subscribe to their core service. Halo Infinite is the closest iteration to the original Halo feel. It's close, but it simply barely misses the mark. It has an identity crisis underneath its nostalgic demeanor. Let's look back again at Bungie's legacy. What did they leave behind for 343? Pathways into Darkness took Wolfenstein 3D and added a high concept narrative to it. Marathon discussed the nature of man, machine, and our place in the universe, as well as invented mouse look and dual-wielded weapons. Halo brought the world the wonder of the ring, blending science and religion with a touch of cosmic horror together into a fresh sci-fi canon. Its groundbreaking game design became a template for how first-person shooter games are made today. Halo 2 introduced the split campaign, an ambitious dual story following two protagonists with different goals, retaining all that Combat Evolved innovated upon. It introduced online play over the internet, allowing millions around the world to play with each other online. Halo 3 built a central community on Xbox, tying together Xbox Live's social features directly to the game, and allowed the community to make their own fun with user-created game modes, maps, and file share. Halo ODST showed that a small, intimate story in such a vast world is not only possible, but human. Firefight was pretty cool too. Halo Reach showed that a Halo story was not only possible without Master Chief, but could be greater than him. It's a campaign you can't win, and there is immense value in that. Its multiplayer modes fostered a home for social, competitive, and creative players alike, with its vast array of things to do and layers to uncover. What does 343 do with Bungie's rich legacy? Halo 4 removed features that worked without introducing anything innovative to replace them. They killed the fan-favorite Cortana without much of a good reason, and failed to bring a sense of spectacle to its audience. Halo 5 betrayed Master Chief and Cortana, and did nothing with the character of Jameson Locke and his team. It fails to tell a competent story, and while the multiplayer attracted a new audience, its only innovation was built to extract more money from them post-purchase. Halo Infinite finally updates classic Halo mechanics for the modern world and brings back its famous art direction, but it still fails to tell a meaningful story in its narrative, and not only delayed essential community features like Forge and File Share, but failed to innovate on them when finally released. From this perspective, it's obvious why modern Halo feels different. 343 Studios has done nothing to drive Halo forward. No innovations that serve the experience of the player. No meaningful stories that give people something to think about. No communities for its audience to relish in. Believe it or not, it was thanks to Creative Assembly that the Banished were introduced in Halo Wars 2. A team that only makes real-time strategy understood the assignment and created a competent Halo game, having nothing to do with the property beforehand. Each Bungie game brought something new to the table, or reframed what you thought you knew about previous games. They got better with every generation. They thoughtfully innovated upon the medium. They were made by people who love to play their own games. There is no amount of money that replaces that kind of culture. However, despite everything, Infinite Story does end with the possibility for the series to go anywhere it pleases. There's potential, and with 343 becoming Halo Studios, the next Halo could be something truly great. But Halo Studios needs to acknowledge what's missing from their games. What is science fiction without a philosophical base to form a narrative around? The Ring-inspired awe. The next story needs to ask big questions and seriously challenge its audience. Without a truly interesting Halo story, the franchise has no future. If Halo Studios can deliver a competent adventure, then its multiplayer modes must return to its social roots. Couch co-op, social playlists, voice chat, and file share. There are so many modern innovations to connect players together, like Stay with Team, LFG, and easy integration APIs to social platforms like Twitch, Discord, and Xbox. Its primary goal should be to be the game the boys boot up to play on a Friday night. Lastly, it must feel like Halo. The art direction, the weapons, sounds, and music. Infinite got this part close. To win the audience back, to regain Halo's lost magic, these elements are essential. Halo's future depends on its ability to rediscover what made it legendary. Bungie's Halo succeeded not merely because of its gameplay, but because it dared to explore ambitious, philosophical ideas that lingered long after the credits rolled. Equally important, Halo was always a communal experience. Split-screen co-op, vibrant online communities, and abundant creativity through Forge and FileShare. For the next Halo to recapture its magic, Halo Studios must embrace these dual foundations fully. Tell a bold, thoughtful story that challenges players intellectually, and rebuild the vibrant social ecosystem that once made Halo synonymous with gaming itself. This future is possible, but it requires vision and the will to try something different. Look to the greats. Learn from the mistakes of the past. Build something that will inspire a future generation. The fight isn't over yet. You still have one final effort. Until then, wake us when you need us. See you Starside Spartans. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. This has been Game DNA. Keep playing and keep learning.